It seems that in every generation, there's a small number of people who are able to see through the illusion and come to great truths. And in this generation, there are going to be many more than in previous ones because of the internet, because we can share information freely now. But we're
Mm.
still only a very small percentage of the overall population. There's very few of us that see things this way. And it's great when we find each other because we can support
Mm.
each other. And people, listeners find a lot of comfort in knowing that there are other people out there that see things the same way as they do. But
Mm.
still, we're a minority, always have been. Why do you think that is? Do you subscribe to the notion of NPCs at all? Because I look around me and I see so many people just going about their business every day and they act as if they know exactly who they are, what they're doing here. They're scurrying around between shops and McDonald's and getting home for the football and to watch TV and get the dinner on and stuff. And they just act like, yeah, this is life. This is normal. I know who I am. I know what this is all about. But a few
Mm.
of us question that and we're like, why do we behave this way? What is the
Yeah.
point of any of this? It's only ever a small number of us. So, what do
Yeah.
you think about that? And do you go for the idea of NPCs at all?
Uh, one of the biggest questions that we need to ask ourselves is why wouldn't there be NPCs, right? Like if we live in a world that we don't understand, we don't understand how it was created. Uh, we cannot experience things from other people's perspective. Like you can't even be sure that uh, other people exist because you can't experience what it's like to be them. You can only experience life from your perspective. Why wouldn't there be NPCs? Why wouldn't the force that created this um, create NPCs that it will actually control to keep us under control? Because if it controls these NPCs, if it makes these NPCs make certain choices, these NPCs might actually influence us to make the same choices that they're making. And that's why I keep on telling people that, hey, man, you got to be yourself. Do what makes the most sense. Don't follow other people. If other people are doing things that don't make sense, don't do these things just because you're trying to fit in. So yeah, I think there are NPCs. Oh, like to me, it's actually obvious. Like when you look at the level of consciousness that some people seem to be operating on, it's hard to think they are conscious at all. You're like, nah, man, like there's no way that you can have a conversation with someone and tell them the real truth, and they still don't understand you. It's almost as if they are programmed to respond a certain way. And
Right.
another thing that I've noticed is that people respond the same way. Like people who I feel are unconscious, they respond the same way when I tell them the truth. Like they respond the same way. It doesn't matter where they live. It doesn't matter, how they experience life. But when I tell them the truth, they respond the same way. It's like this, what some people call the Agent Smith effect, right? Agent Smith always appears when someone is waking up in the Matrix, right? He's always able to take the form of the person that can see another person waking up. So it's kind of like that. It's like once you start to say some things, it's like there's this force that actually take over the person that you're talking to, so that it will actually say, things to confuse you, to make you think that there might be something wrong with you. That is why you think the way that you think.
Right.
So yeah, I do think they are non-player characters, definitely. I think it's logical to think that one.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
so many people email me every day and they say I've got family members and close friends, and I try and speak to them about these realizations and to get them to see things the same way. And this blank expression just comes over them, and it's just like they don't get it. They're
yeah,
incapable of getting it. They're not programmed to get it. You could be bashing your head against a wall for the next 30 years and presenting them with books and documentaries and all kinds of evidence, and they're just never, ever going to get it because they're programmed not to, it seems.
yeah, exactly. It's not that um it's not that they understand what you're saying and they disagree. No, they don't understand at all. It's almost as if like you are communicating with um a program that cannot understand the language that you are using, right? Like if you're communicating with a robot that doesn't understand the language that you're using. So let's say it's programmed to understand English and you're not speaking in English. It's almost like that. Like they don't, like when you communicate with them, it's like they're not responding to what you're saying. They're just saying what they've been programmed to say when people say the things that you are saying.
Right.
It's crazy. And I
Running
think,
software programs.
yeah, I think that's enough evidence. You know, there's enough evidence that we actually do have non-player characters because the things that we're saying make sense. It's not like we're saying things that are complicated. This should be obvious to every conscious being, even if you don't agree, but then you still can understand what is being said. You might be like, okay, I don't agree with you on this and that, but then I still understand where you're coming from. I still understand why you think the way that you think. But some people will be like, oh no, you're crazy for thinking that way. Oh, you need help for thinking that way. It is more of us than there've ever been in history.
Exactly. Yes, there are in this generation. And I
Yeah.
think the point here is that this information, even though it seems dark and bleak when you first come across it, is ultimately empowering. And I've
Yeah.
actually found that coming to these realizations has caused me to become more compassionate towards other people and towards
Yeah.
all living things. I mean, I always was kind to animals and living things, but I'll go out of my way not to tread on insects on the ground because I recognize that they're living sentient beings just the same as me, and they've got a
Mm,
right to not be harmed. And I
mm,
recognize that we're all trapped here together temporarily, whether we're humans or animals. So
mm,
we're all on the same side. We find
mm.
ourselves all in the same boat. And a bit of kindness and compassion all round makes all of our paths here slightly easier to navigate. I think
Yeah, yeah.
that's a pretty good code for making it through this temporary existence.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Actually, yeah. This, thinking at this level actually made me more compassionate than I was. I mean, I used to growing up. I used to just think animals. Uh, shouldn't like we shouldn't care about them. Like as humans, we are better than them. You know, they are a lower life form. It doesn't really matter what we do to them. But as I became more and more conscious, I started to, look at them the same way that I'll look at another human. You know, when I see an animal suffering, I'll be like, it is suffering the same way that I have suffered or that I'm suffering. And if I can help it, then I should help it. I remember last week my nephew wanted to kill this other bug, like it was on the floor. He wanted to kill it, and I stopped him. I was like, don't kill it. Let me just take it outside, and I took it outside.
Right.
You know, like at this level, it's hard to be to have no compassion. Like it's almost impossible. You start to see others as part of yourself because you are dealing with the same shit. Sorry for cursing. Yeah, you are dealing with the same things as conscious beings. It's not like it's only humans who are actually suffering. Animals are suffering too. It actually did make me more compassionate than I used to be.
Yeah. So whenever you identify the nature of a problem as accurately as possible, you have to start moving towards finding solutions. That's the next logical step. So
True.
here we really need to talk about some exit strategies. So clearly we can't get out of this place while we're entombed within these physical bodies, these meat suits. That can only
Mm,
happen at the point of our consciousness leaving the body and passing over. So
mm.
what from your studies do you feel we're going to be faced with at that point? And what do you think our best options might be? Tough question, I know.
Yeah, it's a tough question, but it's a very necessary question for people to ask themselves. Um, because this force that is controlling this reality didn't start to exist only in this reality. It actually exists. It actually started existing in higher realms, in higher realities. We still have to deal with it, and I think it's gonna like what we dealt with, like the level of manipulation that we're dealing with in this room is actually nothing compared to what we'll deal with in the afterlife. I think that's when we will be manipulated in so many different ways. So what we need to be trying to do is learning to reject whatever it's giving us that is keeping us trapped, right? Like even the things in this room that are keeping us trapped, even the things that are making us feel like, you know what, maybe this room isn't so bad because, you know, I have all this money, or I have all these women, or, you know, I have love in my life, I have this and that. I think it needs to get to a point where we actually realize that whatever we are being given in this room is we're being given so that we'll actually remain in this room, right? So that we'll never feel like escaping. So even in the afterlife, I think we'll be given things that are going to make us want to come back, or that are going to make us want to remain there instead of like trying to wake up. So we need to learn to detach ourselves from the things that are keeping us stuck until we reach the realms where we are able to understand what we are, realms where we are actually powerful, where we are not relying on other beings, where we are 100% relying on ourselves. Because if in any world where we are relying on other beings to actually survive, we can be manipulated. So we cannot be sure that these beings have our best interest at heart. So I think that is what's happening in this realm, and I think that's what's going to happen in the afterlife. So we have to, yeah, we must expect a very high level of manipulation, but we must be ready. And I think we can train ourselves, you know, in this realm to actually detach ourselves, to not believe the lies that we'll be told. I think in the afterlife, these beings are also going to, you know, transform into people that we love in this room, right? Some of the people that have passed away, or even people who have not, who will not have passed away, you know, before, who will have not passed away before us. And these people are going to, you know, be trying to convince us to do things that are actually going to keep us stuck. So that's when we will really, really, really need to be smart, because I think this is nothing. I do understand we're being manipulated, but I think this is nothing compared to the level of manipulation that you're going to deal with.